You know that feeling, right? That instant electric pull towards someone you can't really explain. Well, let's get into it. Because what if that powerful spark isn't what you think it is at all? We're about to break down the psychology of attraction, from the biological signals you literally can't control, all the way to these deep, unconscious patterns that are probably making your choices for you. And believe me, where we end up is going to be a lot more surprising than you think.
All right, first things first, let's talk about the science of that spark. I mean, what is actually going on inside your brain and your body when you feel that crazy chemistry with someone?
Okay, so that feeling, it's literally a chemical high. Your brain is getting flooded with this potent cocktail. You've got dopamine, which gives you that intense rush of pleasure. Then there's norepinephrine. That's the stuff that makes your heart race and your palms sweat. And get this, your serotonin levels actually drop, which is linked to obsessive thinking. You know, when you just can't get them off your mind? Yeah, that's why. Sound familiar?
But it's not just a chemical thing. Oh no, your subconscious is working overtime, picking up on all these invisible signals. For example, we're actually drawn to the smell of someone with a different immune system. It's thanks to something called the MHC gene. It's basically our body's way of sniffing out a good genetic match. Then there's facial symmetry, which our brain reads as a sign of good health. And sometimes, it's really simple. It's just the proximity effect. We tend to fall for people we just see around a lot.
So yeah, a lot of that is happening completely behind the scenes without your permission. But here's the good news. Some of the most powerful attraction signals are things you can absolutely control.
Let's take smiling, for example. There's this study from the American Psychological Association that found something really interesting. For women, smiling a lot was often seen as more attractive. But for men, it was kind of the opposite. They were often rated as more attractive when they smiled less, giving off that more brooding, serious vibe.
And then there's facial hair. This is another fascinating one. A study found that men with stubble were consistently rated as the most attractive. Yep, more than guys who were clean-shaven or had a full beard. It really seems like there's a perfect sweet spot.
And look, the list of things you can control goes on. Having a unique personal scent? Incredibly powerful. And how you communicate, using bold, confident language instead of, playing hard to get, that makes a huge difference. Oh, and yes, it's true. Studies have shown that just wearing the color red can actually make you seem more attractive. It's a simple, instant boost.
Okay, so we've talked biology, we've talked behavior, but attraction doesn't just happen in a bubble, right? It's also being shaped by these huge social forces and gender norms all around us.
This quote from Vikas Divyakeerti really hits on a critical point. So often, men are taught to just suppress their emotions, to be a man. And this can lead to this really profound loneliness, this inability to connect. It creates this inner turmoil that completely changes how they look for and react to attraction.
And you can actually see these differences play out in studies. For instance, researchers at the Huberman Lab found something wild. Male subjects were willing to give up money. They would literally pay just to look at pictures of attractive women. But the female subjects, they didn't have that same motivation. They were like, no, I'll take the money, which shows a really fundamental difference in how desire can drive behavior. All right, so we've covered the science, the controllable signals, the social stuff, but now we're going to go deeper, way deeper, because a psychologist named Carl Jung came along with this totally radical idea. What if your attraction is almost never about the other person? What if it's really all about you?
And this quote, this is the key to the whole thing. Jung basically warned us that those powerful, meant-to-be attractions we feel, well, they're often just our unconscious mind pulling all the strings. It's replaying old stories that we don't even realize we're stuck in.
And this leads us to a huge concept, projection. You know that intense, lightning bolt feeling of desire? Jung would say you're not actually seeing that other person clearly at all. Nope, you're seeing a lost, hidden part of yourself, a quality you've pushed down and denied, and now you're seeing it reflected back at you in them.
He called these lost pieces your shadow. The shadow is all the parts of you that you've been told to hide away. Maybe it's your wild side, your vulnerability, even your anger. So when someone walks into a room and they just radiate that missing piece, your unconscious mind just screams, there it is, and you call that feeling love. Just think about how this plays out. Consciously, you think, wow, I'm falling for this exciting, mysterious person. But what if, deep down, your unconscious is just being pulled towards someone who reminds you of the cold, emotional distance of a parent? You're mistaking the rerun of an old wound for the thrill of a new romance.
So, if our biggest attractions are just us projecting our own unhealed wounds onto other people, how do we ever find a genuinely healthy connection? Well, that's what this last section is all about. It's about how to move from that unconscious compulsion to a conscious choice.
And really, this is the most important question, isn't it? If it feels like it's all just a trap, how do you escape? Especially if you keep falling for the exact same type of person who always ends up hurting you. How do you finally break that cycle?
Well, the answer starts with understanding a concept called repetition compulsion. See, your psyche isn't always looking for happiness. A lot of the time, it's looking for resolution. It keeps dragging you back to the scene of your oldest emotional wounds because it's hoping that this time you'll get a different ending, that you'll finally win the love or safety you didn't get as a kid. And that, right there, is why chaos can sometimes feel so much more familiar and even more attractive than peace.
So how do you escape? It's through a process Jung called individuation, which is really just a fancy way of saying becoming your own whole self. Step 1 is just recognizing the pattern. Then, the next time you feel that intense, familiar pull, you have to stop and ask yourself, okay, what part of me is this person waking up? The next step is to integrate that shadow, to actually own that lost part of yourself instead of looking for it in someone else. And only then, only when you do that, can you choose a partner from a place of wholeness, not from a place of wounding.
So here's the final thought. What if the whole point of attraction isn't really to find someone to complete you? What if it's just a map that's pointing you back to the parts of yourself you need to reclaim? Because when you stop searching for a missing piece out there, that's when you're finally, truly free to love.